Welcome to La Bella Vita. I am your host, Dana Giacomello, founder of Bullies Keep Out, and today we are chatting with Keegan Connor Tracy, actress and Bullies Keep Out advocate. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to just start off with some basic type questions that I like to ask everybody as far as the cause of bullying and hate in all forms and everything that surrounds it. Why is the cause important to you to advocate for?
Well, I mean, I have small children who are in school, and they're just at that age. Well, my older one is at that age where she's starting to come home with things that sound an awful lot like bullying, and I think it's pervasive. I think everybody's experienced it, so it's a pretty obvious cause to support. And I think we're seeing bullying on a grand scale right now. I mean, I think any of these acts of terrorism, that's bullying on a grand,
Oh.
vicious scale. So maybe if we can stop it at a lower level, look, I'm not simplifying saying we're going to stop ISIS if we stop bullying, but you know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to say that maybe if we have some happier people lower down in the age groups, that maybe they won't get to such a point as these awful things are going to keep happening.
No, absolutely, I agree with you, and it's an interesting topic because people don't realize that there might be different names for things, like you said, terrorism, and even domestic violence and addiction, and there's different names, but it's still bullying in some form. It's forms of
Yep.
hate, so they all relate to each other, which is why we advocate for so many different causes. We've gotten asked that question before. Oh, you know, LGBT, equality, domestic violence, addiction, and it's like, well, because they're all some form. Even self-bullying, like when we talk about mental health and depression and anxiety, it all relates. So, there's bullying everywhere, and there's really no limits on it. Like I said, they just have different names. So,
Yes.
another thing I wanted to touch base on is for you. I know that we've discussed it before in a previous chat that we've had. That's actually not up yet, but it's getting there. It's getting worked on. You're no
You
stranger
got all
to.
the parts where
No, we left those funny cute parts in.
I,
You're no stranger to being an advocate and being a feminist. You talk about it all the time on social media, and it's an important topic for you.
it is, yeah.
And as far, have you ever had any issues? I mean, I know I've seen it, and you said that you have girls, I believe. So, have you ever experienced any cyberbullying or offline bullying when it comes to being a feminist? And what is like your definition of it that you feel that you want people to know because there's so many stigmas that surround it?
I have to say that I have been really lucky on the front of cyberbullying. I've had only two real experiences that I can speak to. One was a guy who was putting up these very strange hate videos. And I really don't know why. He sort of was a fan to begin with, and then he started doing that. And it was confusing and hurtful and got to a point where it was scary, and I was having to contact the police. And, so that's something that made me uh, wary about my online life. It's one of the reasons why I don't, in general, post identifying pictures of my children. I don't talk about what their names are. I certainly don't say where they go to school or any, like I try to keep that tight to the vest
Of
because that
course.
scared me. And then the only other one was when, I don't know if you remember the whole Yes All Women, when
Yes.
that was going on. I tweeted something about an experience that I had, and this young kid sent me back a tweet, something about basically saying, well, it was my own fault, which was so ludicrous and infuriating and misguided that I didn't almost know what to do with it.
Right.
Um, I just said something back to him about how really he just proved himself to be, a
Yeah,
bit of an idiot.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
To victim blame like that. And absolutely, like that's the thing with cyberbullying is you're sitting behind your computer, sometimes not even using your real name and saying whatever you feel as though there are no consequences. And I think we really need to be aware that of course there are consequences. You can really do a lot of damage to people with things like that. And I think there's a lot of people who've gotten off Twitter because of it or other, forms of social media. Luckily for me, that's really like the only super jerk I've had.
Okay.
He was young. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But
Yeah, no, definitely people have left. I've known some people that have left and they just stopped tweeting, and it's a shame because it's such a great outlet for causes and to communicate and to, for charities and to donate and to just voice our opinions and have conversations and be able to, and, I think some people are almost afraid to talk about certain topics, feminism being one of them, because I've seen the conversations and they get like so out of hand and blow out of proportion. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, do they know what it means? Like, because like people, I think they just talk and they're not realizing really what they're saying, or they don't know much about the topic, and it's just to be mean and to be harsh and cruel. And I think that that's definitely one of the big issues. And people, I feel I could see, celebrities, and just I had someone come to me today, and somebody made a fake profile and they're using it to bully her. In the fandoms, it happens a lot, and it's sad to hear, because I looked at the timeline and it's basically a timeline, and it's mocking the person, and they do it it doesn't matter who you are, they do it with celebrities too. I've seen it. I've worked with them in handling the situation. And it really is a shame that you have to stop doing something that's enjoyable because you get to the point where you get tired of it.
Yep.
Now, being that, like you said, you have kids, do you, like, as far as like your values and your beliefs and morals, do you plan to bring them up surrounding around that type and teach them that, or let them figure it out on their own? Are you afraid in any way that they're going to have issues when because the bullying, sometimes people feel it seems to be getting worse as times go on?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody raises their children with their value system in mind. Some people do it more actively than others, and I think certainly I try to be a very conscious parent. We try to talk a lot about all different, all of these topics. Certainly, I think I'm a fairly vocal advocate of women's rights and girls' rights, which is not to the exclusion of male rights, which I think sometimes that's where the whole, people get all up in arms about the big F
Yeah.
word of feminism. But what I just really mean is that I expect to be treated as an equal because I am an equal. And I expect that for my daughters, and I expect them to have the same rights. I think they should make the same amount of money as their male counterparts, as I do for me and any other woman. Thank you, Jennifer Lawrence, and all of that crew. So yeah, absolutely. I don't know how I could raise my daughters otherwise. I think I am definitely more politically engaged, and talk about things like that more with my children maybe than some other people. But I think my kids are smart, and I think they can handle it. And I want them to be raised with a sense of social consciousness, and I have every intention of continuing to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And I think, as parents, you need to talk to your kids more and more, and have those serious conversations with them and teach them things. And I think that's some of the issues with bullying, is that we're not talking to the kids enough. We're not communicating with them, finding out what they're doing, who their friends are. Being on social media, I've heard a lot of people say, like, I'm not posting my kids' pictures and talking about them on social media. I'm not going to let them have social media, and with the cell phones and the texting and all this stuff, because all this goes into, bullying. And it's funny that you mentioned it with, women's rights and gender equality and equal pay and feminism. And I think that is a big issue, because I've seen some tweets where, I don't know if you remember, it was weird. It was a conversation of domestic violence, and he wasn't rude, but he chimed in and said, well, men too. And I said, absolutely. I said, nobody's
This was
saying,
recently.
yeah, I said, nobody's saying leave men out. It was, end violence against women. That was the day for that hashtag. But, people, they jump in, they right away, I think that's what it is. It's like, it's almost like they get defensive or offended, and it's like, no, 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 that's not what, and he was very nice, but it's like, that's not what we were trying to say. Of course, violence in any form is,
Well, think about it. One thing that we know for sure is that a woman is most likely to be killed by her domestic partner. I mean, that's a reality that is not the same for men as it is for women. So
right.
that's why there's a day for that. And what I think that was the day that I responded back, something like, I'm against all violence against anybody. I don't want it to
Yeah,
happen to anybody. Come on, let's be real here.
right.
But at the end of the day, I am a woman. I am a woman who has experienced violence. I am a woman who has experienced, the kinds of things that that day is meant to make sure it doesn't happen. And that's what I was speaking to.
Right. No, yeah, that's what I was trying to explain, because it's like you could actually, you know what, when you can have the nice, decent conversation with someone who's not attacking or not bullying and not using hateful words, which he was actually talking, the person was actually talking very nicely, which is what I, because I don't have a problem hitting the block button, and I don't have a problem at all, because I've had to do that with all the stuff going on when it comes to, when people are talking about what's going on now with, the gun laws and gun violence. It's like you have to hit that block button a lot sometimes if you like tweet something, because like everybody like and like you get like all these tweets and all these different things, and some people are willing to have a nice conversation, other people are just like attacking you left and right, so it's very hard to
Oh, I on that one for sure, particularly because I'm not American. So to speak to issues that are, I think, quite specifically American, I try to tread lightly because I recognize that I am not American and I'm not a voting American. Um, but there's a sense of powerlessness to being that. I spend time in the States, I can work in the States, and you know, that means that I am signing up to live in a culture where that's accepted, and uh, no, I'm not super keen on that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like, I've actually, like I said, we actually work with bullies too, and some of them do want help, and they do realize that they might have been a bully in a situation. I had someone come to me recently, and she said, I don't know what to do because I think I've just bullied this person a lot. And they admitted it, and people have always asked me, do you work with bullies? I said, look, I don't mind having a nice conversation with someone if somebody can have a respectful conversation, because there's a very big difference between a respectful conversation and attacking someone, and that's where the fine line is between bullying and there's nothing wrong with opinions or even a heated conversation, but there's also a time and a place for it, and sometimes, public social media, like a giant conversation might not be the place for it. Take it offline or to private messaging and stuff like that, but there are times where you can have the decent conversations about it, and, I love when the people come to me and they want help because they realize that they did bully someone, and they showed me the proof of themselves bullying.
Oh, was it G.I. Joe said, knowing's half the power? Or something
Yeah,
like that?
I mean, that's exactly what I said to them. I said, look, the fact that you can admit it, that you're halfway there, right there, and it takes a lot to come forward and say like I'm bullying someone.
And I think everybody's guilty of it sometime in some way. Like there are days with my kids, and people who are parents, I'm pretty sure you can recognize this, where you're just like, oh my God. And then you step back from that and you think, that was maybe not, maybe I was like bullying my little kid because you're making me crazy. I think not people aren't necessarily doing it consciously. I think a lot of times people don't realize they're doing it. I think if, for example, in corporate environments, I think there's a lot of bosses that bully their subordinates, and it feels like power, as in I'm your boss, but what's really going on is something beyond that, and I think it's not always conscious, and um, I still have to believe out there people are good. And I think when it like I think I talked about this about being an actor. When I take a script and I'm looking at a character, particularly someone who is evil, I don't look at them as evil. I try to create a backstory for them about what messed up things happened to them in their life that made them feel like they needed to do whatever these bad things were. And I think that that's true in reality. I mean, we have to ask ourselves, what on earth are these people missing in their hearts and in their souls that causes them to lash out like this, whether it's on a small scale in a schoolyard or on a grand scale with a gun walking into a place and taking out people that they don't even know.
Yeah.
I think like the root is some pain somewhere. And I think maybe as a society and as a culture, we are not addressing that well.
Right. No, I absolutely agree. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot, and it's not ever close to over. And I don't really know, people have said, do you ever really think it will be over? And I said, I don't really think so completely. I think there's always going to be somebody out there doing something, or a group of people, or just, the more and more we grow and with technology and whatnot. And, you're right. I think I don't want to, you never want to speak for anybody else or everybody, but I would have to say if we all honestly answered that question of have you ever probably been on both sides of the fence, whether it was bullying within the home or workplace, because, we deal with that too. It happens all the time. I mean, I've been in situations where I kind of felt like, do you have something like against this person, or like, like the way that they act, it's not, I'm your boss, and a normal boss reaction, like you said, it's more like it's a power control thing, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
With any bullies, and but the thing
And
is
throughout
to
bullying,
speak
there
out.
have been bullies.
Yeah, I mean, it happens everywhere, and people don't realize that. They think, it just happens to a certain, it just happens at school, or it just happens in a schoolyard, or it just, and I said, no, it's everywhere, and it's all the way through adults. I can't tell you how many adults I have come to me on a regular basis, because we're for all ages anyway. It's not any specific age, it's all ages, but we do tend to be a lot more adult oriented and have a lot of adults. And they said, people always say, there isn't really a lot of movements or campaigns or organizations for adults, so they think that's great. And I said, no, that's kind of why I wanted to incorporate that, because I don't see many for that, like where you get, we offer mentoring and coaching, and we work with adults as well. And I think it needs just as much attention at any age. Of course, youth and kids, it's very important, because they're building self-esteem in their skin, and you don't want them to turn into adults that are going to do that. So the earlier you hit it, the better off you are. But they're definitely, like, when you bring up the pain, it definitely is. It's anger, it's pain. People aren't born bullies. They're not born to hate people. It's a learned behavior. There's something going on within their inner circle somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people realize that. They're always looking for, let's just punish, punish, punish. And it's like, well, but they need help too.
Yeah.
It's not just about, okay, let's just punish them. You really are not going to get anywhere, in my opinion. And as a parent, you'd have to kind of see that angle as well. Like, if you just punish, 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 at some point your kids are going to probably, react back or be resentful in some form without you ever having a conversation with them, or sitting down with them, or working things out. And I would think, I mean,
Yeah. And I think there's a sense too that like, again, we're talking about like the root causes of this. I was even thinking, like, my little girl is in third grade and came home a while ago talking about another girl that's sort of like, I sort of think of her as a bit of a frenemy. And this girl has been lashing out in certain ways. And I mean, I think she's a bit of a bully. But I also know that her parents have recently divorced, and that she's going back and forth between households. And I don't know what's gone on behind those doors, but I can't help but wonder if some of that is a reaction to that, to the powerlessness that maybe she feels as a result of that. And I am trying to use that to keep love in my heart for this kid, even though sometimes she's being mean to my kid, you
yeah.
know? And I think it's a good place to start.
It definitely is, and that's great that you look at it that way, because it's true. I mean, you don't really ever know what anybody's going through. It doesn't excuse it, the behavior, but to try to find some type of understanding, and of course, if it gets out of hand, you have to do different things, but to stop it. But yeah, there's so many people going through so many things, and like I said, it's not an excuse to act out, but maybe if they're reached out to more, and people had a little bit more understanding and compassion rather than just lashing out or punishment and stuff like that, I think that maybe they would be reached more in some aspects. Not everybody, but and like I said, with where you had mentioned that we've all probably maybe bullied someone, somewhere in our lives, and didn't even realize it. I firmly believe in that statement, because I remember when I was younger, the thing is, defend your friends, always have your friends' backs. That's just a thing. I mean, it's a thing now. You always feel like you have to defend people that you care about. So, but in doing that, if they're doing a bullying act, and even if you're just standing there, you're part of it. And I realized that one day when I was younger, I believe I was in middle school, I was standing there, and I kind of think that I was in that situation where I didn't do anything, but I was just kind of standing
But
there.
you didn't do anything,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I'm just standing there with my friends, like, yelling at this person, and I'm like, this can't be good. Like this, and I wasn't comfortable with it, but you're friends for years, and you kind of feel like, well, if I don't, are they gonna be your friend or not be your friend? But then you have to look at it is, do you want somebody to be your friend like that? Are they really a real friend if they're not going to be your friend just because you don't want to engage in that type of behavior? So,
And I think there's a sense that what we're giving kids now is maybe some tools to learn how they can step in and stop when these things happen. There was a simple little thing at my kid's school the other day that some of the little boys like to wear nail polish. He was wearing black nail polish and he had like these rad little gold ones here. And there were some issues when he was at school. He was getting made fun of and the other kids were giving him a lot of grief and he was upset. So my daughter and a bunch of her friends said, you know what, I want you to paint my nails like this so that tomorrow I can go to school and we can say, look, we're in solidarity with you. And I thought that was
nice.
brilliant. Like what a way to disarm this simple little thing. And
That's
I
great.
just think for every, remember that picture of the guy putting the flower in the barrel of the rifle during the Vietnam War protests, I think.
Yeah,
It's like small gestures that still have power. They can counterbalance this sort of angry energy that comes from, or like misguided energy, or whatever it is. But I think what organizations like this are doing is arming people and giving them tools to say it's all right to stand up. It's all right to stand up for someone else. It's all right to come and talk to somebody if it's happening to you. And so I think that that's just an important step that we're taking. And like you said, there's always going to be bullies. Of course, there are always going to be bullies because power is something that a lot of people want, and
yeah,
bullying is about power to a great extent, right?
yeah,
But
absolutely.
we both can.
Yeah, no, and the truth is, it is the simple things. I think sometimes it could be the most powerful. They think like you have to do something really huge for it to get a message across, and you really don't. It could be a simple conversation, which is why I love to do these chats and conversations because it really resonates with people, and they love to see it. They love to see the faces. They love to hear what people have to say on different aspects and topics and subjects of bullying and different forms of it, and especially people they look up to, which is why I feel that it's important to keep the conversation going with as many people as you can. So that's why, you know, I love to do it as much as I do because it's such a great response. Um, the one other area that I wanted to touch base on was, a lot of people always want to know what you would say to someone and what your advice would be or words of wisdom that you would say to somebody struggling with bullying. I mean, do you have anything specific that you would say to someone? I mean, it doesn't, kids, adults, just anybody really going through it and struggling.
Oh, it's gone all like crazy, and you sound like you were speaking a whole
I
different
know,
language
I
there.
heard that.
Like coming out of space or something. Do I have words of wisdom? I think was the gist of it, right?
Yeah, basically, like any, advice, words of wisdom. I know everybody loves to hear something different because everybody's always got something unique and different to say. So it's something I like to ask to everybody.
I feel like I'll call it the Gandalf Principle. This too shall pass. Well, I guess you shall not pass. So maybe it's not the Gandalf Principle. I'll have to come up with a new name, I guess. The Keegan Principle, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to take credit for that. I think I said it in the other interview. It's just you feel like this is everything, and I think particularly kids in high school. I think high school feels like because it's your first time that you really come alive to who you are and what's going on around you and all of the things that are going on with being a teenager and the pressures and the just all of it, and you feel like that will never end and like it is the biggest thing. Yes, it's the biggest thing that's happened to you yet, but it will not be the biggest thing that will happen to you in your life, and the trials and the tribulations of it will help to mold the strength inside of you that you will see many years down the road. I mean, I think the tendrils of high school, they last, they stick with you, those things that happened that are awful, or university, even as far as there, I certainly have many things. But I think there's a perspective that comes with time, and you see that you get through it. You get through all of it, and you have to stay strong and keep good people around you, and know your own worth. I think is a really important part of it, because if bullying works best on people who have a very thin shell or who don't have a lot of self-esteem, And I think if we can raise, like something I feel like I'm trying to do with my daughters is to raise them to be confident and to be strong and to know who they are inside so that bullies can't take that away from them. It doesn't mean that they're not going to dent that sometimes, but I feel like if we build them a good foundation, then that kid's going to move on to somebody else,
Absolutely awesome. Yeah, no, it's very true. And, I always like to mention, too, that the parents are such a big part of it. I don't, I wish I would have had you watch it. I don't know, maybe you did. I don't know, before we started. But there was a video that I posted, and it's also, I think it was going all over social media, but I also posted it on the Bullies Keep Out Twitter because I wanted people's opinions. I think it was a mother and her daughter, and she was videotaping talking to her about bullying, but there was so much cursing, and she was almost kind of bullying her herself. And like I said, you might have not have seen it, but and I wish I would have mentioned it to you so you could have watched it just to discuss it a little bit. But, there was a lot of people on the fence. A lot of people were saying, oh, yeah, well, when bullying, because it's so serious, that was totally okay. And then you had other people going, yeah, but you don't need to curse at your children. And then you don't need to bully them into not being a bully because that's kind of probably why the kid is being a bully. And that's how I saw it.
Well, you can ask yourself too, like, I think, for example, people who have their kids in hockey, like I've grown up in Canada and I came from like a really hockey centric part of the country. And I think you would see the parents, you'd go there and the dad would be yelling and screaming and you'd think, well, no wonder your kid's a bully. He's probably getting bullied at home,
Yeah.
whether you're realizing it or not. And I think there are lots of times, like I said, I really, like yesterday, I didn't have my best day with my little ones. And I took a step back afterwards and I was like, I think that wasn't cool. I'm always willing to apologize to my children. I have to do it on a fairly regular basis. But I think, you have to be able to step back and look at your own behavior. And I think sometimes we can look at these kids and go, I think I know where that's coming from.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And I mean, I was an athlete and I was big in sports, so I know how that is. It's like when you're there, or you even have coaches sometimes that just put so much pressure on you. People just don't realize, like I said, bullying is just from all over.
Same Bella, who was the gymnastics coach? Bella Carosi? Like in some ways you could say, like that's, I don't know, maybe you have to be a bully to be a good coach. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't
think
know.
you look at Shaquille O'Neal's coach from LSU, whose name escapes me right now. I watched the documentary the other day of them that was just brilliant. And, he was a coach that just like lifted Shaquille O'Neal up and gave him the foundation that he needed to be what Shaquille O'Neal became. So no, to go back to what I said, you don't need to be a bully to be a great coach.
No, I don't think you do. I mean, somebody mentioned to me about the show. Somebody mentioned to me about the show Dance Moms, and they were like, she's kind of a bully.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe your kid will go to the Olympics because you bully the hell out of them, but I don't know if they'll be a happy person. So
yeah, I don't know. When I watched it, I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I would let, like, I mean, you want your kids to be the best and you want them to, they say tough love and all this other stuff, but like I said, there is such a big difference and you really are walking a fine line when you go through, into all that stuff. You just really have to be careful because kids are very sensitive and emotional and, they tend to hide their feelings more. And I think that's, as parents, they play a big part in the fight against bullying, and as well as the schools. It's not just any one person's responsibility. It's actually all of our responsibilities. That's kind of the way I see it. So
yeah, because we live in this community, and I think we want to keep our streets clean, and that's part of it.
I say that all the time. Keep your side of the street clean. Exactly.
Not just backyard. We gotta look around and yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Absolutely. Well, we are coming to that time where we're probably going to put people to sleep. So, thank you so much again for taking time out of your schedule. I know you have a busy schedule. And I know, everybody can look forward to your PSA that you're working on. So we look forward to seeing that as well.
Thank you, Michael Raymond James, for setting the bar on that
one. Yeah, everybody always mentions that. They're like, well, I don't know if it's going to be like that. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be. If you really watch them all, everybody's different. I mean,
Yeah.
some people, I said, I don't care if you're sitting at the beach. I mean, some people are sitting right in their home, just right at the computer, you know, every.
Play ukulele. Like, don't be
There you go.
don't be-
There you go. You can make your little song there on your ukulele. Those are cute videos. I like them.
Oh my gosh.
Anything for charity, you know. What are you gonna do?
Right? That was a success. I was really happy with it.
It was. It was great. I loved it. I watched every single video. I thought it was adorable. It
Did
was
you?
great. I did. I watched every single one and I tweeted every single one and I'm like, this is like totally great.
Oh
I
my
thought it
gosh.
was I thought it was a great perk.
Did you?
I did.
Why?
I did, and I know you probably were sitting there like, oh, nobody's gonna get this perk. I'm safe.
I really did. I cannot tell you how much I really thought that. And then even when I had the idea, I was like, oh, I'll do like a Vine. It'll be 8 seconds. And then of course you can't do an 8 second song. And then people really bought them, and I was panicking. I gotta tell you, I really was panicking. So that's why I called Ken. I was like, you can help me with this. I know you can.
Yeah, no, they came out great, and it was for a great cause. So, you know, I always love to, you know, with my advocates, share their other stuff and their causes and whatnot, and help them out any way I can. So it was awesome. I loved it.
Thanks. It ended up actually being really, really fun, and I have my little brain working. I was thinking, I wonder if we could expand it, and like I could try to get all of my wonderful friends who work in the industry to join along and try to raise enough money to build a school. This is my
Absolutely, that is
grand plan.
awesome. That is awesome. I love that. That is great.
Great, great.
That is awesome. Okay, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this chat with Keegan, and don't forget to be kind and love big.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Spread love.
Thank you so much.